The October garden is more than colorful leaves and pumpkins. We still have a lot to do. Let's grow. Trimming strawberries this late in the season is a controversial tip. I'm going to show you why I'm doing it and how to do it right so you have better strawberries next year. These are June-bearing strawberries, and as the name suggests, they produce their full harvest in June. So in July, after the strawberry plants have finished producing, you're supposed to perform a process called renovation. Renovation is when you cut down all of the growth to about 2 inches above the crown. This then stimulates the new growth in late summer and fall, which then supports the production of fruit in June. So even though I didn't renovate, you can see that I have a lot of new growth here. It's because I maintained the health of these plants throughout the season, gave them fertilizer, consistent water, and trimmed any of the dying leaves. And it's why I'm comfortable trimming them now. So removing all of this older growth will allow good air circulation. It will prevent disease, especially over winter when this all gets matted down, and it'll allow me to inspect the crowns. Using clean scissors, locate those older leaves and trim them about 2 inches above the new growth so you don't damage it. Only compost healthy leaves. Everything else should be tossed in the garbage. Now, unlike a renovation that is a fairly aggressive cut, this is just a trim. Now, while it looks like I have a lot of growth here, this is just all of the older leaves. I still left quite a lot of growth in the bed, and you can see I even left a lot of the midterm growth as well, and these look really healthy. I even rooted a couple of the runners, and once they've taken root in the soil, I'll cut them from the mother plant. Using a little garden tool or even your fingers, I have this cute little spade, you want to loosen up the soil around the crowns. Just be very gentle. And the reason for this is because we're going to be applying a side dress of bone meal. Side dressing is just the process of sprinkling some either fertilizer or compost around the base of the plant rather than digging it in, which could damage the roots. Bone meal is a slow release fertilizer and it is a wonderful soil amendment. It is great for root development and it will support the roots and these plants through a harsh winter. It will help them thrive when they come back in spring when they're producing their fruit. Once you've applied all your fertilizer, give them a good water. This will help to begin the process of releasing nutrients into the soil. Continue watering these through fall into early winter. You can stop once the ground freezes and these have gone dormant and then resume in the spring. If you harvested runners like I did, and I have quite a lot here, which is essentially a ton of free plants, now is the time to get them in the ground. So here is one of my baby plants, and you can see that it has really good root development. Plant this as deeply as it was planted in its original pot. You do not want to bury the crowns. Gently loosen the roots before putting it in the hole. This is a good practice for any plants that you're placing in the ground or in a pot, and then push the soil back into place. Sprinkle it with a little bit of the bone meal to help with its root development and then water it in well. I encourage you to harvest your flower seeds. You can use the money that you're going to save on buying new flower packets to buy something brand new you'd like to try in your garden. Only harvest flower seeds from completely dried seed heads. And it's so late in the season, you could let your plant die in place like I did with this one. The risk of harvesting flower heads too soon is that the seeds will not be viable. Now, these zinnias are still in production and they look beautiful. So I'm not going to harvest any of these. I'm going to leave them be. And then when they die back, like this one, I will trim them and harvest their seeds. The 3 flowers I'm showing you here, cosmos, marigolds, and zinnias, are part of the same family known as the aster, daisy, and sunflower family, and they all produce their seeds underneath the flower head. There are 32,000 species of flowers and plants in this family, so it's highly likely you're growing one or more of these types of flowers in your garden. So you want to pull apart the seed head and you want to separate the chaff from the seeds. If you haven't done this before, what you're looking for is something that is dark, pointy, it's firm, it may look like an arrow. These look really healthy. Marigold seed heads are much more compact. Once you pull apart that papery covering, you can see this is like a tight little bundle. There are probably 30 seeds here. You don't have all that chaff to deal with. They resemble little matchsticks and these look really good. They're nice and firm and dry. You can store them just like this, or if you want, you could separate them. I would just store them honestly like this and then just pull apart the seeds as I need to next year. Now with the Cosmo, it's going to be more similar to the seed head of the zinnia because now you're dealing with that chaff again. You do need to sort through and pull out the seeds, but again, you're looking for something similar, dark, firm, pointy, and that would mean that it's viable. I keep all of my seeds in the seed organizer, and it's great because I can label it and I can keep like all my flower seeds together, my tomato seeds together, pepper seeds together. I would say that once you've harvested all your seeds, regardless of where you're harvesting them from, whether it's your vegetables or your flowers, and they have completely dried out, you're going to store them in a seed envelope. Just label it with the date. You can even put in some additional information like the color and the height. So you know, like for example, if you're growing tall marigolds or shorter marigolds or taller or shorter zinnias. And this just makes it really great because like I said, it keeps everything organized, and this is a nice, cool, dry location for your seeds, and they will remain viable for many years. Don't wait until spring to divide your chives. If your chive clumps are ready to be divided, you want to perform that activity in the fall because that allows them to establish themselves underground before the harsh winter. Gather the clump and trim it about 3 inches above the soil line. You can preserve whatever you've harvested. Dig up the clump about 3 inches away from the base. You want to get as many of the roots up as possible. You can see that this is a nice clump with really good roots. We're just going to give this a haircut, cut some of those roots off. It'll make replanting it easier, and this will also help to stimulate new root growth. Once it's trimmed up, you can separate the larger clump into smaller clumps of 10 to 20 bulbs. You're looking to make sure that you're not overcrowding it, but you want to make sure it has a substantial enough root system to take hold underground. Plant each clump as deeply as it was planted before. Divide your chives every 2 to 3 years to maintain the health of the plants. I have been dividing and replanting these chives for the last 10 years. If you maintain the health of your plants, you can have them indefinitely. Chives are a great garden companion. They are a great border plant, and they are super low maintenance. You could put a little bit of compost as a side dress in the spring, but they require very little fertilization. Just give them consistent water throughout fall and then resume in the spring. When it comes to harvesting herbs, temperature is more important than the month. For most of us, October is incredibly unpredictable. We have warm daytime temperatures and very cool evening temperatures. So it's really important to understand when to harvest and how to harvest appropriately. Some of your plants are going to be cold sensitive annuals, others will be cold hardy annuals, and then you have your perennials that will come back next year. Basil is a cold sensitive annual, and now that temperatures are dropping, it's time to harvest all of your leaves so that you can preserve them for pesto, salts, and you can even put them in the freezer. Alternatively, we can lift the plant, repot it, and bring it indoors and continue harvesting all of the fresh leaves as long as possible. Make sure you subscribe for the full video on how to harvest all of the herbs in your garden and ways to preserve them. And I'm going to show you how to lift your basil, repot it, and bring it indoors so that you can continue harvesting fresh leaves. There's a lot to do in October, from fertilizing to harvesting. Make sure you subscribe to get next week's full video on how to harvest and preserve your herbs, plus an upcoming deep dive on soil health.